So this video will pick up exactly where our last one left off. We'd just arrived in San Francisco after a really excellent first class flight with British Airways. We were staying in San Fran for about 3 nights, moving on to Las Vegas for a bit more of a holiday, and then supposedly flying back with British Airways. It transpires that turned into an absolute debacle of customer service, but we will get on to that at the tail end of this video. So we'll focus a little bit on the stay in San Francisco, a little bit about Vegas, but focus mainly around the really poor customer service from British Airways, but eventually quite a good outcome, but we'll talk about that later. So in San Fran, we were staying in the Fairmont Hotel. Really nice hotel, kind of really ornately done. You'll see just as we walk through the lobby area here. Really nice interior, really well done. Quite a nice place to be. Quite an expensive hotel, and I have to say the location wasn't great for us. Just felt that everywhere we wanted to go and everything we wanted to see in San Francisco was at very least a taxi or an Uber ride away, and it just made getting about a little bit more, frustrating really. Nice enough hotel. I won't go into the rooms particularly here, but if you are interested, I've done a video on a pop-out banner above now, and you can just have a whiz around the rooms. So this was our first time in San Francisco, and we were really keen to see what the city would hold for us. We got an Uber from the airport back into the city to the Fairmont, and then we began exploring the city over the following days. I suppose our first impressions were, crikey, those hills are steep. Don't underestimate them. They look impressive on TV and movies. All I can say is they are blimmin' steep in real life. City's quite spread out, as I've kind of already alluded to, and it kind of led to us getting quite a lot of Ubers, taxis, or trying to get the tram up and down the city. It's much more spread out than other cities that we visited in the US, which isn't a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just it took us a little bit by surprise. We got the harbour tour just to have a look at what the skyline had to offer. Got a real close-up look of the Golden Gate Bridge, which I have to say was really impressive. The pictures don't do it justice. And then obviously the main sight to see in San Francisco is Alcatraz. So we did get a specific tour for this. It took us out and around the island. Bit of footage here. Obviously it's sped up just so that you can kind of get the full appreciation of it. But it's amazing how familiar the building seemed, even though I've never seen it before with my own eyes. Kind of all the films that you've seen, in particular The Rock, kind of really hit it home for us. I would say it's well worth doing. It's a massive piece of history, really interesting, and as you'll see later on, the kind of cells put it into context a little bit really, that it's quite scary that those conditions were lived by quite a lot of people. So it's really easy to book a tour. You can kind of do different ones. We just did the ferry boat out and then an audio tour around the island itself. So you disembark the boat and wander off through. You pick up your little headphones or telephone type device, and you wander around the set path, and it gives you an audio package as you go around. Clearly it's an interesting place. You can really feel the history in there. And some of the events that went on. I mean, for modern day terms, the cells are tiny. That's a standard cell, and then we'll just move on. The next shot will actually be a solo confinement cell, which looks truly horrific. And after what felt like the perfect amount of time, we were heading off to the airport to go to Vegas. Nothing against San Francisco. We enjoyed our time. We just didn't really connect with the city. We certainly wouldn't really want much more than 3 nights there in any one go. It was a nice place to see. Alcatraz was fantastic. The Golden Gate Bridge was fantastic. But it just didn't really connect with stuff other than that we'd like to see and do. So we headed on over to the airport to pick up a Southwest flight over to Vegas. And I will just talk a little bit around the package that we'd booked, because this has particular relevance further down the line. We'd booked our outbound flight from London to San Francisco, the hotel in San Francisco, the hotel in Vegas, and our return flight back to London from San Francisco with British Airways. The internal Southwest flights we'd booked separately just because they were much cheaper than connecting with American Air through BA, and equally they went at times that were much better for our trip. So Southwest is a fairly budget airline in the US. I have to say though, really quite impressed. It's quite simple. It does what it says on the tin. Nothing fancy about the plane, but it does include 2 pieces of luggage per passenger in the hold, and a little bit of hand luggage as well. So all in all, really easy to use. They've got a really good and intuitive app, which again we'll come on to talk about a little bit later of just how important that was for our trip. So it's cheap and cheerful 100%, but it does what it's supposed to do, and they're actually quite flexible in their approach. So as far as I'm concerned, quite a nice big thumbs up for Southwest. So after a really smooth and uneventful hour and 15-minute flight, we landed in Vegas, picked up our luggage and got an Uber over to the hotel. We were staying at the Vadara hotel. We think this is a bit of a hidden gem on the strip. It's a non-gaming hotel, so there's no casino here, but actually it offers a really kind of calm and tranquil environment. So after a busy and hectic day out on the strip doing whatever it is you choose to do when you're in Vegas, it's a nice calming and welcoming, relaxing atmosphere, and the rooms we find are really nice, particularly the suites. I won't go through the room on this video as we didn't do in San Francisco either, but if you do want to have a look at the room, please click the pop-out banner above now and it'll take you through the room that we stayed in. The rest of the video really will start talking about BA and the debacle of customer service issues we faced, and I'll kind of start taking you through that step by step, just to try and help you understand how vulnerable we felt as individuals, but equally that how perseverance pays off in the end, and actually the outcome once we got to speak to BA was a positive one. So I want it to be a balanced kind of video, but I do hope that someone from BA watches it and kind of recognises just the position you're putting a few people in. But anyway, I'll play some general clips in the background just so you can get a taste of Vegas, and we'll start talking through how the situation unfolds. So up until the last day of the holiday, everything was smooth. We had our Southwest flights booked back from Vegas to San Francisco, and we also had our first class return flights from San Francisco back into London Heathrow, allowing a decent changeover at San Francisco just in case there were any issues, but everything was set and planned. So at T-minus 24 hours before we were due to fly, we did the usual check-in online through the app, making sure we booked onto the flight, got the luggage sorted and got our seat allocation as well. Everything at this point was going perfectly normally, so we decided to enjoy our last day out in Vegas, headed over to a place called Ellis Island. It's a little bit off strip, it's cheaper gambling, cheap food, cheap drinks, quite a nice rustic atmosphere, and I would recommend it if I'm honest. Sorry I didn't grab any footage of that. Whilst we were there enjoying a few drinks, we got the dreaded text message from British Airways letting us know that our flight was cancelled. This was about 18 hours before we were due to fly, and probably put the time in the UK round about sort of 7 PM at night, and I think this becomes really relevant as we go on. The text message isn't the issue itself per se. It let us know at a relatively early stage that the flight was cancelled, and it told us to go online to start looking for other options. So that's exactly what we did. We went online and started to look at what the rebooking options were. We logged on just to find that there was no other viable flights for us. It didn't even present anything, it was just a flat, there are no alternatives, and that you should call this number, and it gave us a number to call. So again, thinking, okay, it's given us a number, we'll be able to kind of contact someone relatively quickly and be able to talk through the options and see what there was. Unfortunately, the number we were given just went straight through to an answer phone and basically told us that this number isn't staffed, you won't be able to get through to anyone, and if you're less than 24 hours to contact the emergency office, and gave us an email address. So again, that's exactly what we did. We contacted the email address, sent an email telling them the situation, and stood and waited for a reply. So I think rather naively, I was thinking I'd get a reply within a sort of hour or two, and possibly even a phone call from someone to start talking through different options. It became painfully apparent that wasn't going to happen. So I tried to be as patient as I could be. I think we waited somewhere between 4 and 5 hours for a reply, which just never came. We then started trying the executive club membership numbers. We were silver at the time, so hoping to get through to silver. That again just went through to an answer phone, which basically said you aren't going to be able to speak to people. So it's this point that we started feeling quite vulnerable, very frustrated. I can't quite quantify just how frustrated I was, and nothing was happening. We tried Twitter, direct messaging through Twitter and Facebook. We had no response from that for quite a while. In the end, we had to go to bed in Vegas at about sort of 10, 11 o'clock at night, not knowing what we were supposed to do in the morning, if we were supposed to get up and connect through to San Francisco, or if we were just going to sit there and wait for BA to contact us. Anyway, it actually transpired that Twitter had a result for us, and they rang us at about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, which, if you do your maths, correlates to opening hours in UK time, so 9 to 5. So my top tip for anyone is, if you're waiting to get through to customer services at British Airways, expect them only to do it Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. out of hours, it was painfully apparent we were out on our own limb. Now, what I would say is once I managed to get to speak to someone, they were phenomenally helpful, and I genuinely mean that. They resolved our issues within about 10 minutes. And the answer to that was actually they could get us back on the same day if we flew from LA rather than San Francisco, and that would still be a first class flight. So the outcome from that was really good. I was really worried that in contacting Southwest Airlines that they would then charge me an absolute fortune for cancelling a flight and rebooking a flight, and I couldn't have been further from the truth. So I went on the app. I didn't even need to speak to anyone at Southwest. Went on their app. They rebooked me from San Francisco to LAX. It was a cheaper flight, so they refunded us within 10 minutes of me going on the app. Isn't it ridiculous? I spent thousands and thousands of pounds with British Airways for a first class flight, and I spent a couple of £100 with Southwest, and the customer service I got was better from Southwest, the supposed budget airlines. So I suppose my summary of this is the customer service was shocking for BA. I can't get around it. If it was out of hours UK time, it just felt like you're on your own, and didn't matter what plans or issues it was causing you're on your own. But once you got to speak to someone, they couldn't have been more helpful, and the issue was resolved. So I don't know whether it's about managing your expectations or whether it's about trying to get a message to BA. All I really know is that the customer service was shocking, and really disappointed with BA. Whether that's the BA as a company, whether it's the executive club, it just really was, you're on your own, mate, suck it up. So anyway, I suppose after all the moaning and groaning, what we actually ended up doing was getting a first class flight back from LAX rather than San Francisco. That flight itself was absolutely awesome, as was the airport. There'll be a follow-up video not touching on any of these issues again, but just showing you the experience of flying out of LAX, which I would argue is probably close to their flagship products. So I hope my moaning and ranting hasn't gone on too bad. I hope you can kind of see the value in perhaps understanding the time differences and working out that BA will be in Monday to Friday 9 till 5. And hopefully you'll learn a little bit from my pain so that you don't have to have as much. Bit of a different video, this one. I don't know if it will go down well or not. Please feel free to kind of leave a comment talking about how good or bad you found the video. Always trying to improve and always trying to make my videos a little bit better. And as always, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Hopefully you're enjoying it. Thanks.